chosen one. Pause and breathe for a moment, because what you are hearing right now is not coincidence. This is divine appointment. Heaven has been nudging you, guiding you, pulling you into this exact moment, because your hidden identity has begun to rise to the surface. You are not watching as a passerby. You are here because your spirit has recognized a truth your mind is only now catching up to. Since childhood, you have carried signs, sensitivities, strange knowing, unexplainable protection, and a pull that set you apart long before you had language for it. These were never random. These were markers placed inside you, evidence of a rare origin and a calling stamped over your life before you ever drew breath. As written in Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, before you were formed, you were known and set apart. Anointed one, you are standing at the edge of revelation. Heaven is peeling back the veil and showing you what has been hidden in plain sight your entire life. You are chosen, marked and crowned with purpose. This message comes as a prophetic invocation, stirring the deep places of your identity and preparing your spirit for transformation that will manifest in your heart, your body, your path, and every circumstance around you. Chosen one. Lean in. What you are feeling right now is not confusion, not coincidence, not emotion. It is recognition. Something in your spirit is stirring because the words being spoken over your life are not foreign to you. They are familiar. They echo with the same quiet truth you have carried since childhood, the same knowing you tried to silence, the same whisper heaven kept sending into your dreams, into your storms, into your heartbreaks. You have always been different. You have always sensed things others could not see. You have always felt shifts in the atmosphere before anyone spoke a word. And even when you tried to blend in, even when you tried to shrink yourself just to make others comfortable, your light betrayed you. It kept rising. It kept leaking out of you. It kept revealing who you truly are. And this moment right here is heaven's way of saying enough hiding, enough shrinking. It is time to remember who you are. Chosen one. The betrayal you survived was not a random emotional disaster. It was a spiritual revelation. It exposed what your spirit had already felt long before your mind could catch up. Your ex didn't just walk away. They didn't just mishandle your heart. They mishandled your identity. They mishandled someone heaven marked before birth. They mishandled someone set apart in ways they never understood. That is why it hurt so deeply. That is why it shook you to your core. You weren't mourning the loss of a relationship. You were witnessing the unveiling of their true spirit and the unveiling of your own. You were being shown painfully and prophetically that not everyone is permitted to carry someone with a destiny like yours. And if you look back with honest eyes, you can almost see every warning heaven tried to give you. The dreams that made no sense. The sudden heaviness you felt after talking to them. The way your peace dipped even on days when nothing went wrong. Those weren't coincidences. Those were revelations. Anointed one. I know what it feels like because I have been there myself. I've carried love so deeply it became intercession. I've cared for people who didn't know how sacred the connection was. I've overlooked red flags because my heart wanted to believe what their spirit could not live up to. And I've felt that ache, the ache of giving someone access to the deepest chambers of your heart, only for them to spit on the very light they used to bask in. But here is the truth. Heaven taught me the truth that changed everything for me and will change everything for you. Those who mishandle the chosen never walk away blessed. They walk away uncovered. They walk away exposed. They walk away from their own elevation without realizing it. And while you cry, thinking you lost something, heaven is already shifting you toward a version of yourself they were never meant to stand beside. Chosen one. I want you to hear this with your whole spirit. The betrayal you experienced was not a setback. It was a spiritual separation. It was heaven pulling you out of alignment with someone who was blocking your next level. You were elevation to them, but they were stagnation to you. And when a chosen one is connected to someone beneath the frequency of their calling, life becomes heavier, slower, more confusing. You start doubting yourself even when you're right. You start feeling drained even when you've done nothing. You start losing clarity even though you were born with discernment. That is the cost of carrying someone who isn't aligned with your destiny. And heaven saw it. Heaven intervened. Heaven tore apart what your heart was still trying to hold together, not to punish you, but to protect you, because had they stayed any longer, they would have dimmed your purpose. They would have eaten away at your confidence. They would have become the one voice capable of silencing the identity heaven placed inside you. And now look at them. They are restless, searching, pretending, performing. Because what they lost wasn't just love. They lost spiritual covering. They lost divine favor. They lost the light that kept their life stable, even when they didn't recognize it. The investigation they are facing spiritually, emotionally, mentally isn't random punishment. It is alignment. It is heaven balancing the scales. And while they wander through the consequences of mishandling a chosen one, you are rising into clarity. You are rising into strength. You are rising into the truth of who you really are. Anointed one, your story is shifting. Your identity is awakening, and in a moment you will understand why betrayal had to be the doorway to your becoming. Stay with me, because the next revelation will unveil something you have felt your whole life but never had words for. Chosen one. As we move deeper into this revelation, I want you to understand something most people never discover about themselves in an entire lifetime. Your heartbreak was never just emotional, it was spiritual excavation. It unearthed layers of truth about who you are, what you carry, and the level of destiny written into your very being. Many people experience breakups, but only a few experience the kind of betrayal that shifts the spiritual atmosphere around them. Only a chosen one walks away from a collapsing relationship with deeper wisdom, sharper intuition, and a sudden acceleration in their spiritual identity. That shift you felt after the separation wasn't madness. It was awakening. It was the veil thinning. It was heaven whispering, you are stepping into who you were always meant to be. And even if part of you resisted it, another part of you finally felt seen, finally felt understood, finally felt aligned with something ancient and powerful within your soul. Because the truth is, the betrayal didn't break you. It broke the shell that was hiding you from yourself. There is a pattern among chosen ones, a pattern I once ignored in my own life, until heaven forced me to pay attention. Every time someone with divine identity is mishandled, the universe shifts in response, not out of revenge, but out of alignment. Think back on your experience, chosen one. You didn't just lose sleep. You didn't just lose trust. You were undergoing spiritual recalibration. Your dreams became sharper. Your senses grew stronger. You started noticing things you once overlooked. You began seeing people's intentions with unsettling clarity. That wasn't trauma, it was transformation. When a chosen one is wounded, something supernatural happens. They rise with new eyes, they rise with new authority, they rise with new protection. And while your ex may have hoped their betrayal would leave you broken, what they didn't realize was that chosen ones don't break, they evolve. They don't crumble, they ascend. Your spirit was being rewired for a level of clarity and discernment they were never meant to witness, let alone benefit from. Anointed One, you must also understand why the consequences they're facing now feel so heavy. When someone betrays a chosen one, they are not simply hurting a person, they are disrupting a spiritual assignment. You were sent into their life as a lifeline, as elevation, as protection. You prayed for them when they wouldn't pray for themselves. You covered them when they exposed you. You held their soul together when they were crumbling internally. Your energy became their safe haven, even when they couldn't articulate it. But instead of honoring that blessing, they treated it casually. They mishandled the light they didn't earn, and heaven takes note of that. Heaven doesn't punish, it balances. Heaven doesn't retaliate, it reveals. And now your ex is experiencing the spiritual vacuum left behind when the presence of a chosen one is removed. That emptiness they feel, the heaviness, the sudden confusion they are tasting the weight of life without your covering. What once flowed easily now feels blocked. What once felt peaceful now feels disturbed. What once made sense now feels scattered. Because your presence wasn't optional, it was alignment. It was divine protection wrapped in human skin. I know this deeply because I have walked through the same valley. I once loved someone who didn't see my worth, who treated my loyalty as if it were an endless resource. They took without giving, emptied without pouring back in, and assumed I would stay because my spirit was gentle. But when a chosen one finally leaves, they don't just walk out, they lift the atmosphere with them. The moment I stepped away, their life changed. Opportunities dried up, friendships crumbled, peace slipped away. And at first I felt guilty, wondering if I had abandoned them. But then heaven revealed the truth. They weren't suffering because I left. They were suffering because they mishandled a divine connection. You, chosen one, are witnessing the same pattern unfold in your story, and you must not feel responsible for the consequences they created through their actions. The spiritual investigation they are facing is not your burden to carry. It is their lesson to learn. Chosen one. This is the moment you begin recognizing the hidden signs that have followed you since childhood. The way people were drawn to you without knowing why. The way you sensed danger before it arrived. The way your spirit reacted when someone's intentions weren't pure. The innocence people tried to exploit. The strength you didn't realize you had until life demanded it. These signs were never random quirks. They were markers of your calling. They were fingerprints of heaven on your identity. They were reminders that you walk with a different assignment, a different glow, a different level of spiritual wiring. And when someone like you is mistreated, the universe always responds. But here is the most powerful truth of all: the investigation they are facing is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your unfolding, your revelation, your rising. You are stepping into the season where heaven will make your identity undeniable. It won't be through revenge, but through transformation, through clarity, through elevation, through the quiet, undeniable glow of someone who survived betrayal and came out spiritually undefeated. And as you rise, chosen one, the world will begin to understand what your ex never did, that your presence was never ordinary. It was divine, always has been, always will be. Chosen one. As we continue, understand this truth with your whole spirit. What you survived was not just betrayal, it was initiation. Every chosen soul, every anointed vessel, every person marked by heaven walks through a season where someone they loved deeply becomes the catalyst that awakens their spiritual identity. Not because the pain was deserved, but because the awakening was overdue. You didn't ask for this revelation, but your destiny required it. Your calling needed it. The next version of you depended on it. And now that the veil has been pulled back, nothing in your life will ever feel the same. You are seeing yourself differently. You are seeing others differently. You are seeing your purpose differently. And while part of you grieves what was lost, a deeper part of you finally understands why it had to be removed. The betrayal wasn't the punishment, it was the pruning. Chosen one, look at your journey with honest eyes. Think about the times when your spirit sensed chaos before it unfolded. Think about how you used to wake up with a heaviness you couldn't explain. Think about the moments you tried to silence your intuition because you wanted the relationship to work. Think about the nights your heart felt something your mind refused to accept. That wasn't paranoia. That wasn't insecurity. That was spiritual sensitivity, your first gift, the one that has always been with you. It is the gift that allowed you to feel danger before it touched your life. It is the gift that exposed lies even when they tried to hide behind calm faces. It is the gift that showed you someone's energy before their actions revealed anything. And it is the gift your ex underestimated. They thought you were overthinking. They thought you were emotional. They thought you were fragile. But they didn't realize you were discerning. You were spiritually wired. You were born with sight. Anointed. Every chosen soul carries something that intimidates the unprepared truth. Not the truth spoken with lips, but the truth that radiates through presence. The truth that reveals intentions. The truth that magnifies shadows. The truth that exposes dishonor. For someone with unresolved wounds, that kind of truth is terrifying, and that is why they ran from you. Not because your love wasn't enough, but because your presence demanded growth they weren't ready to face. Think back. Every time you offered love, they offered distance. Every time you offered honesty, they offered confusion. Every time you offered clarity, they responded with chaos. Not because they wanted to hurt you, but because your spirit confronted the truths they were avoiding within themselves. And when someone avoids their own growth long enough, they begin to wage war against the very person who was sent to lift them. I've experienced this too, chosen one. I once loved someone who said all the right words, but crumbled under the weight of authenticity. They were drawn to my light, but terrified of what it revealed about their shadows. They wanted my love, but not the accountability that came with it. They wanted my presence, but not the reflection it forced them to see. And like you, I gave chance after chance, believing love would heal what fear had broken. But heaven showed me something powerful. You cannot save someone from a battle they are determined to lose. You cannot be the light for someone who insists on living in darkness. And you cannot force someone to honor what their spirit is not mature enough to receive. Chosen one. Your ex is now facing the consequences of mishandling a connection that heaven orchestrated and protected. Not because heaven is cruel, but because spiritual laws cannot be ignored. When someone receives access to a chosen one, they are being handed a gift that carries spiritual covering, emotional healing, prophetic clarity, and divine favor. You weren't just a partner to them, you were elevation, you were alignment. Your presence gave them opportunities they didn't sow for. Your prayers opened doors they didn't knock on. Your intuition warned them of things they never would have seen. Your heart softened storms they didn't earn their way out of. But instead of honoring that covering, they mistook it for coincidence. They thought peace was normal. They thought protection was luck. They thought blessings were automatic. They forgot the source, and when they mishandled the vessel, the favor lifted. And now their spirit feels heavier. Their life feels unstable. Their decisions feel foggy. The connections they chased feel empty. The joy they tried to manufacture feels artificial. The nights that once brought them rest now bring restlessness. Why? Because the absence of a chosen one exposes everything they were avoiding: their guilt, their emptiness, their patterns, their fear, their spiritual blindness. They aren't haunted by memories, they're haunted by the truth. And the truth is that they didn't just lose a person, they lost alignment. But here's what matters most, chosen one. Their downfall is not your focus, your rise is. This journey is not about watching their life unravel, it is about watching your spirit unfold. You're entering a new season where heaven is going to expand your sensitivity, strengthen your discernment, and amplify your identity. The signs that once whispered will now shout. The intuition that once trembled will now roar. The gifts that once flickered will now blaze. And as you grow, you will begin to understand that everything you lost was preparing you for everything you are about to gain. Chosen one. Your evolution has begun, and what you become from this point forward will make the betrayal feel like a footnote in the story of your becoming. Chosen one. As we move into this next layer of revelation, understand that everything you've endured has been shaping you into someone spiritually unshakable. What felt like collapse was actually construction. What felt like abandonment was alignment. What felt like punishment was preparation. This is why, even in your lowest moments, something in you refused to die. Something in you kept whispering, "There is more." And that whisper wasn't coming from your emotions, it was coming from your origin. You were never built to break. You were designed to transform, to adapt, to rise, to evolve. Even when you didn't know the full truth of who you were, heaven knew. Your destiny knew. Your gifts knew. That is why life refused to let you settle into relationships, environments, or identities that were beneath your calling. You were being pulled, sometimes dragged into the fullness of who you were supposed to become. Chosen one, look back at your story with fresh eyes. How many times did you outgrow situations long before you realized it mentally? How many times did your spirit get uncomfortable before your mind understood why? How many times did your intuition warn you, but you dismissed it because you wanted to believe the best in people? You weren't naive. You were spiritually ahead of your time. You sensed things others couldn't sense because your spirit was tuned to a higher frequency. That sensitivity people tried to label as too emotional or too intense was actually divine wiring. You were born with a deeper emotional radar, a sharper spiritual antenna, a heightened awareness that marked you as different. And instead of celebrating this gift, the world tried to silence it, misinterpret it, or break it. But the gift survived. It always does. When your ex betrayed you, they didn't just wound your heart, they activated your identity. They triggered something ancient and powerful in you, something that had been dormant under the weight of loving someone who wasn't aligned with your journey. Pain became the ignition, betrayal became the catalyst, loss became the doorway. And through that doorway, you stepped into a clarity that only chosen ones ever experience. You began seeing people differently, not through the lens of hope or fear, but through truth. You started recognizing who carried light and who carried shadows. You started feeling the intentions behind people's words. You started discerning energy the way some people read facial expressions. And that shift wasn't random. It was inherited. It was part of your spiritual DNA, a trait that has followed you since childhood. Think about the first moments in your life when you felt different. Maybe you were the child who noticed when someone was hurting, even when they pretended to be fine. Maybe you were the one who felt heaviness in rooms without knowing why. Maybe people confided in you without understanding what drew them to your presence. Those were early signs of the mantle you carry now. Nothing about you was ever accidental. You weren't just sensitive. You were spiritually alert. You weren't just quiet. You were listening to frequencies others couldn't hear. You weren't just overthinking. Your mind was trying to interpret what your spirit already understood. And this is why your ex struggled with you, chosen one. Not because you were hard to love, but because you were hard to deceive. Your spirit saw through masks. Your presence disrupted their comfort. Your intuition challenged their shadows. You were too authentic for someone still addicted to pretending. Anointed one, let me share something personal. I once had a relationship where everything looked perfect on the outside. The smiles, the conversations, the shared dreams, but something in my spirit would not rest. Even in happy moments, I felt a strange uneasiness. Even in peaceful moments, my intuition would whisper warnings I couldn't understand yet. I kept asking myself, why can't I just relax? Why can't I just enjoy this? But the truth revealed itself later. They were never aligned with who I was becoming. Their spirit and mine belonged to different paths. And the longer I stayed, the louder heaven had to speak. When the betrayal came, it wasn't just heartbreak, it was confirmation. It was heaven showing me what I had been sensing all along. And once the truth was revealed, everything clicked. My peace returned. My discernment sharpened. My identity expanded. You, chosen one, are walking through the same unfolding. What you thought was emotional chaos was actually spiritual clarity. What you thought was heartbreak was actually revelation. What you thought was rejection was redirection. And now the fog is lifting. Now you can see who you really were in that relationship. Someone carrying light, depth, intuition, compassion, and purpose. Someone who loved at a level your ex wasn't built to receive. Someone who carried a spiritual covering your ex didn't know how to honor. You didn't lose them. You outgrew them. You stepped into a frequency their spirit couldn't reach. This is everything begins to make sense. The signs, the restlessness, the dreams, the intuition. They were all pointing you toward the truth of who you are. And as you continue this journey, you'll begin to understand that what feels like loss today is actually the doorway to divine alignment. You are rising into identity, into clarity, into purpose. And in the next part, we will uncover the deeper spiritual reason why the universe responded so fiercely when you were betrayed. Chosen one. As we enter this next layer of truth, I need you to feel the weight of what I'm about to say. The universe did not react strongly because you were fragile. It reacted because you were significant. The spiritual consequences your ex is now facing are not punishments, they are revelations. Their life is revealing what their spirit attempted to hide. When someone mistreats an ordinary soul, the effects are emotional. But when someone betrays a chosen one, the ripple shakes the spirit realm. This is because chosen ones carry assignments, not attachments. Your presence wasn't just companionship, it was divine technology, spiritual architecture, heavenly reinforcement wrapped in human form. You didn't simply date them. You covered them. You elevated them. You shielded them from storms they didn't know were heading their way. And when they violated that covering the void, they feel now is the absence of your spiritual influence. Chosen one. When you were in their life, things flowed for them in ways they couldn't explain. Opportunities opened. Drama was minimal. People who meant them harm couldn't get close. Even their own destructive patterns softened around your spirit. You were a stabilizer, a purifier, a quiet anchor they never acknowledged but constantly fed from. People don't realize how much light is holding their world together until the light is gone. This is why they feel disoriented now. This is why they feel exposed. This is why every decision seems to backfire. They walked away from the one soul who was sent to guide them toward alignment. And now that they're unprotected, life is mirroring back every shadow they avoided. Anointed. 1. Think about your own life for a moment. Look at how quickly things began to shift after the breakup. The clarity, the peace, the dreams, the intuition that intensified, the way your spirit began to breathe again. That wasn't random. That was restoration. That was God, the universe, your higher calling, whatever name you resonate with, lifting the weight of someone who was beneath your spiritual assignment. You had been trying to walk a divine path while holding hands with someone who was walking in circles. You felt drained, not because you were weak, but because you were carrying someone who refused to rise. And because of your compassionate nature, you kept pouring into them until your soul felt empty. But heaven stepped in. Heaven separated you. Heaven pulled you free before their chaos consumed your calling. And now that you're out of their energy, you can finally feel how heavy they truly were. Chosen one. I've lived this truth myself. I once stayed connected to someone who had every opportunity to love me correctly, but their wounds were louder than their wisdom. I prayed for them. I spoke life into them. I held them down when life tried to break them, and still they betrayed the very heart that protected them. When we finally separated, it felt like the air changed. I felt lighter, clearer, stronger. My spirit was no longer fighting battles that weren't mine. And do you know what happened to them? The same thing that is happening to your ex. Their life began to fall apart, not because I wished them harm, but because my presence had been the glue keeping their world together. Without that covering, the cracks became visible, and the universe did what the universe always does. It balanced the scales. And now I need you to understand this. Your ex is not facing consequences because you're special in an egoistic way. They're facing consequences because you were spiritually assigned and they violated the assignment. There is a difference. You were sent to teach, to elevate, to reflect truth back to them, but they rejected the lesson. They fought the light. They mocked the instructions. They aligned themselves with your critics. And in doing so, they stepped out of the protection your presence had built around them. The investigation they are facing spiritually, emotionally, mentally is heaven's way of saying, this is what happens when you mishandle destiny. Chosen one. I know part of you still wonders if you could have done more, if you could have stayed longer, if you could have loved them better. But hear me clearly, you were never meant to carry them. You were meant to awaken them. They chose comfort over growth. They chose ego over evolution. They chose gossip over truth. And when someone chooses the lower path, the universe simply matches their energy. Meanwhile, you were pulled higher, not because you are perfect, but because you are chosen. Your identity was never tied to their approval. Your destiny was never tied to their loyalty. Your worth was never determined by their ability to recognize it. Anointed. One, you must now embrace the truth that has been waiting for you. You are stepping into an era where your identity will be undeniable. Your gifts will sharpen. Your intuition will strengthen. The people meant for you will align effortlessly. And the life you're walking into will make you grateful for every heartbreak that pushed you there. In the next part, we will reveal the deeper purpose behind the spiritual elevation you're experiencing and why your calling required this painful separation. Chosen one. As we journey deeper into this revelation, it becomes clearer that what you survived was not just heartbreak, but a spiritual initiation that could only unfold through separation. Sometimes heaven must remove what your heart refuses to walk away from, because destiny is far too large to be anchored to someone who cannot grow with you. This is why the breakup shook your soul so violently. This is why the pain felt like it carved itself into your bones. You weren't just losing a relationship, you were shedding a spiritual weight. You were being untangled from someone who was never meant to witness the version of you that is rising right now. And just like a snake outgrows its skin or a butterfly breaks its cocoon, you were being asked to release what was too small for your calling. Pain is often heaven's way of forcing a transformation we would never choose voluntarily. But make no mistake, it is transformation nevertheless. Chosen one. You have always carried a sensitivity that others misunderstood. People around you labeled you as too emotional, too intense, or too thoughtful. But what they failed to see is that your depth was not weakness. It was spiritual intelligence. It was the inner compass heaven placed within you long before you knew how to interpret it. You felt energies before they spoke. You sensed lies before they were confessed. You recognized betrayal before the evidence surfaced. And though you doubted yourself at times, your intuition was always accurate. This is the mark of someone chosen. This is the characteristic of someone spiritually wired. And this is precisely why the betrayal hurt more than the actions themselves. It confirmed everything your spirit had been whispering for months, maybe even years. Anointed One, let me share something deeply personal with you. I once loved someone with a depth that felt like destiny, someone I believed was sent to walk beside me. But every time my spirit tried to speak, I silenced it because my heart didn't want to lose the connection. I overlooked signs that were loud. I excused behavior that was wrong. I protected someone who never protected me. And when the betrayal finally surfaced, it shattered not just my heart, but the image of love I had carried. But the moment the relationship ended, my spirit exhaled. The fog I had been living in cleared. The emotional noise quieted. The confusion dissolved. I could suddenly see myself again. I could hear my intuition again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt aligned. That breakup wasn't the end of a love story. It was the beginning of my awakening. And that is exactly what is happening to you. Chosen One. You didn't just lose someone. You lost a blockage, a weight, a spiritual hindrance. A person who absorbed your light while offering nothing in return. Your ex was feeding off your glow without ever contributing to it. And the universe will never let an energy imbalance like that last forever. People can fake intentions, but they cannot fake energy. And the moment your spirit outgrew the relationship, heaven orchestrated the separation. What looked like heartbreak was actually divine surgery. You were being repositioned. You were being recalibrated. You were being pushed back into alignment with the version of yourself you were always meant to become. And look at you now, Chosen One. Look at how your intuition is sharper. Look at how your discernment is stronger. Look at how your peace is returning piece by piece. Look at how you're beginning to recognize your worth. Look at how you're realizing you were carrying someone who refused to carry themselves. That clarity isn't random. That renewal isn't accidental. That strength isn't temporary. It is the evidence of elevation. You are rising because the weight holding you down has finally been removed. Meanwhile, your ex is experiencing the opposite. Their spirit is restless. Their mind is foggy. Their peace is disturbed. Their connections feel empty. And the reason is simple: they violated spiritual law. They touched something sacred without reverence. They mishandled a chosen soul. And when someone mishandles a chosen one, the universe responds not out of vengeance, but out of balance. The imbalance created by their betrayal is now being corrected, and the emptiness they feel is the absence of the covering you once provided. Chosen. One, hear me clearly. You were not meant to stay in environments where your spirit cannot breathe. You were not designed to dim your light for anyone. Your calling is too high. Your assignment is too great. Your identity is too divine. And now that the false connection has been severed, heaven is positioning you to rediscover the version of yourself that was buried beneath the weight of someone else's shadow. Your glow is returning, your strength is awakening, your gifts are activating, and your spirit is remembering who you are. In the next part, we will reveal the deeper purpose behind your spiritual gifts and why your destiny required this painful cleansing before you could step into the fullness of your power. Chosen One. As we continue this unfolding, it's time to confront one of the most misunderstood truths about your journey. Your spiritual gifts were never meant to function in environments where your worth was minimized. Gifts that come from heaven do not survive in places where dishonor is normalized, where your voice is dismissed, where your intuition is mocked, where your presence is taken for granted. And for too long, you stayed connected to someone who could not comprehend the magnitude of what you carried. They loved the comfort you provided, but not the calling inside you. They loved the peace that followed you, but not the discipline required to maintain it. They loved the elevation that came with being connected to you, but not the responsibility of honoring a soul heaven invested so much into. And because they were spiritually unprepared, your light overwhelmed them before it ever healed them. Chosen One. The truth is, your gifts were suffocating in that relationship. Your intuition had to shout just to be heard within yourself. Your discernment was working overtime, trying to guide you through a maze of confusion they created. Your dreams became warnings instead of visions. Your spirit became a battlefield instead of a sanctuary, and whether you realized it or not, your soul was starving for clarity, peace, and alignment. That's why the betrayal felt different. It didn't just hurt emotionally, it hurt spiritually. It wounded the deepest parts of you, the places where your purpose, identity, and destiny reside. But it also awakened the parts of you that had been dormant for far too long. The betrayal shook you awake. It was the spiritual earthquake necessary to crack open your gifts, your truth, and your divine identity. Anointed One, think back to moments long before the breakup, before the pain intensified. There were signs everywhere. You noticed inconsistencies. You felt the shift in their tone. You sensed the energy change before any evidence appeared. Your dreams revealed truths your heart didn't want to accept. You felt their spirit disconnect even while they were physically present. Those weren't just feelings, they were revelations. You were never confused, you were spiritually informed. And every time you tried to silence your intuition, the universe amplified it. Every time you tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, heaven sent another sign. Every time you tried to convince yourself, maybe it's not that deep, your spirit whispered, "Look again. Let me share something personal, Chosen One. I once stayed in a relationship that drained my spirit the same way yours did. I kept trying to rationalize the emotional heaviness I felt. I blamed stress. I blamed timing. I blamed myself. But deep down, my spirit knew the truth long before my mind accepted it. The person I loved was not aligned with my future. They were comfortable with my present, but threatened by my potential. They loved who I was, but feared who I was becoming. And every moment I stayed, I sacrificed a piece of my identity. When betrayal finally came, the pain was unbearable, but the clarity was undeniable. It took the breaking for me to see what heaven had been trying to show me, and the same is true for you. Chosen one, now that your spirit is awakening, you can finally see what your intuition tried to warn you about. You were never meant to shrink. You were never meant to dull your shine. You were never meant to walk through life carrying someone unwilling to learn, grow, or heal. You were never meant to stay bound to someone whose spirit rejected accountability, responsibility, and transformation. Your calling is too significant to be attached to someone who fears their own growth. This is why the universe stepped in. This is why heaven intervened. This is why the separation was non-negotiable. You were being repositioned for purpose. Now look at your life today. Look at how your mind is clearer, your heart is steadier, your spirit feels lighter. This is what alignment feels like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what stepping into your identity feels like. The gifts that once struggled to breathe are now activating. You're having dreams that make sense. You're sensing people's intentions instantly. You're recognizing red flags before they become disasters. You're hearing your own spirit louder than you've ever heard it before. That's not coincidence, it's confirmation. It means your gifts are no longer being suffocated by someone who could not honor the weight of what you carried. Meanwhile, your ex is experiencing the opposite. Their life is unraveling, not because you cursed them, but because they mishandled someone who was spiritually engineered to elevate them. They underestimated you. They disrespected the assignment tied to your life. And you cannot mistreat a chosen one without spiritual repercussions. But again, chosen one, this story is not about them. It never was. It's about you standing in the fullness of your divine identity. It's about you recognizing the sacredness of your gifts. It's about you understanding the power of your presence. It's about you realizing that your intuition, your empathy, your discernment, these weren't burdens, they were blessings. And now that you're free, these gifts are about to operate on a level you've never experienced before. Chosen one. In the next part, we will reveal the higher purpose behind your spiritual wiring, the deeper meaning behind your sensitivity, and why heaven has chosen this exact season to activate your next dimension. Chosen one. As we step into this final unfolding of your journey, it is time to confront the truth that has been chasing you since childhood. You were never built for an ordinary life. The sensitivity you carry, the intuition that startles you, the dreams that come true, the inner knowing you can't explain, these were never random traits. These were early signatures of a spiritual identity, heaven crafted long before you understood the language of the soul. You were born with a different blueprint, a different frequency, a different spiritual assignment. And every hardship you endured, every betrayal you survived, every moment you doubted your worth, was preparing you to finally recognize that difference. The separation you just walked through wasn't just heartbreak, it was activation. It was the spiritual ignition required to push you into the life you were always meant to step into. Chosen one, think back on your childhood. Remember how you could sense when someone wasn't being honest. Remember how certain people made you feel uneasy, even if they smiled at you. Remember how you noticed small details others ignored, how you felt emotional shifts in the room, how you sometimes preferred solitude because groups felt overwhelming. These were not flaws, they were indicators. They were the early marks of someone heaven set apart. You were spiritually awake long before you had the language to describe what you were feeling. You were receiving messages long before you knew how to interpret them. You were protected from things others walked blindly into. And while other children were simply growing, you were already discerning. And that sensitivity followed you into adulthood, didn't it? You always felt when someone's spirit was unsettled. You always sensed when someone's love was not sincere. You always knew when someone's intentions didn't match their words. But when you loved your ex, you silenced those gifts because you didn't want to believe what your spirit was telling you. You wanted the connection to work so badly that you ignored the warning signs heaven was placing in plain sight. You felt the shift months before anything happened. You sensed the betrayal before you saw the proof. Your dreams showed you truths your heart didn't want to face. That's the burden and the blessing of being chosen. The Spirit always reveals what the heart tries to hide. Anointed. Let me share something personal with you. There was a time in my life when my gifts felt like curses. I would sense dishonesty before I had evidence. I would feel people drifting away before they said a word. I would know when someone wasn't for me, even when everything looked perfect. And it frustrated me. I wanted to trust blindly. I wanted to enjoy love without analyzing energy. I wanted to walk through life with the simplicity others seem to have. But heaven wouldn't allow it. Because those gifts, those sensitivities, those intuitive promptings, they were not optional. They were part of my wiring. They were part of my purpose. And the same is true for you. Your intuition isn't a flaw, it's a compass. Your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's discernment. Your depth isn't a burden, it's spiritual inheritance. And the reason your ex could not handle you is because they were not mature enough to stand beside someone who sees through shadows. They wanted love without accountability, access without responsibility, connection without transparency. But a chosen one cannot function in relationships that operate on illusion. Your presence forces truth to the surface. Your energy exposes hidden motives. Your love reveals wounds people haven't healed yet. You didn't ruin the relationship. Chosen one, you revealed it. And they ran because revelation is uncomfortable for the unready. Now that you are free from that entanglement, your gifts are reawakening. Your dreams are returning with clarity. Your intuition is sharper than ever. Your spirit feels lighter. You're noticing signs you used to overlook, number patterns, meaningful coincidences, intuitive nudges that lead you into alignment. Your peace is becoming your new baseline. Your vision is becoming clearer. And this is only the beginning. Heaven has been waiting for you to be in a position where your gifts could finally breathe again. Your heartbreak wasn't a loss. It was a clearing, a spiritual reset, the removal of noise so that you could finally hear the voice inside you without interference. Chosen one. What's unfolding in your life right now is divine reactivation. Your gifts are being restored. Your authority is being strengthened. Your spirit is being recalibrated. And soon you will look back at this season and realize that everything, every tear, every confusion, every unanswered question was preparing you to walk into your true identity. You were never meant to stay in places that demanded you shrink. You were never meant to love people who feared your growth. You were never meant to dim your gifts to keep someone comfortable. You were meant to rise. You were meant to lead. You were meant to shine with a magnitude that intimidates the unhealed and inspires the awakened. And now, as you stand on the edge of your next season, heaven whispers this truth over you. You are ready. Ready to embody your calling, ready to embrace your gifts, ready to trust your intuition, ready to release the past, ready to step into alignment with the destiny that has been waiting for you to recognize it. You are no longer the version of yourself who tolerated dishonor. You are no longer the version who ignored red flags. You are no longer the version who confused potential with purpose. You are rising as the version heaven always knew you would become. Chosen one. This is not the end of your story, it's the revelation of it. And from this moment on, your life will unfold with a clarity, purpose, and spiritual power that even you are not fully prepared for. Your awakening has begun. Chosen one. As we close this message, breathe deeply and feel what is rising inside you. This moment is not just the end of a video. This is a divine appointment, a spiritual sealing, a confirmation whispered straight into your spirit. You have walked through fire, through betrayal, through confusion, and through the shattering of illusions. Yet here you stand clearer, stronger, and more awakened than you have ever been. This is not by accident. This is heaven unveiling your true identity. Anointed one. Your spirit has been speaking all along. The signs, the sensitivities, the dreams, the inner warnings, these were the markers of your sacred origin. You were never ordinary. You were never overlooked by the divine. You were carved out, set apart, and appointed for something that carries far more weight than the pain you survived. What tried to break you only revealed what heaven placed in you. What tried to silence you only awakened your voice. What tried to dim your light only made it undeniable. Chosen one, may you walk from this moment with a renewed sense of who you are. May clarity crown your steps. May purpose steady your spirit. May alignment guide your decisions. And may every hidden part of your identity continue rising to the surface like gold refined through fire. You are stepping into a season where your gifts, your intuition, your discernment, and your divine wiring will become impossible to ignore. Heaven is still guiding you. Signs will still follow you. And your spirit will continue recognizing the path created just for you. If this word stirred something deep within, feel free to share your reflection or leave a blessing in the comments. And if you wish to stay connected to messages crafted for souls like yours, you are welcome to subscribe. But above all, walk forward, knowing this truth: you are chosen, you are seen, you are guided, and your divine path has only just begun. Go in clarity. Go in purpose. Go in sacred power.